Today we're talking about something that can increase your audience retention, it can make your content more engaging, and it can increase conversions and drive sales. And that is your delivery to camera. Now, the problem that everyone has is we all hate the sound of our own voice. In the 13 years that I've been doing this, I've never played a clip back to a client and they've gone, I sound amazing. They always go, I can't possibly sound like that. The reason for that is when we speak, we're also hearing sort of the vibrations inside, and that's making our voice sound deeper. So when we hear it back, it doesn't sound like that. But there's a few things that we can do to sort of bring what we think we sound like back into a line with how we actually sound. The first thing is the amount of effort that we're putting into communicating to the camera. We need to be putting in about 150% of what we do if we were just chatting to our mates in a bar. Because when we're talking on camera, cameras sort of mute everything. So we just need to put in that little bit more effort. Then when we watch it back, we're more likely to look and sound how we think we sound versus what the camera sees. The other thing is confidence, because as soon as you come across as awkward on camera, people will just switch off. You know, if we think back to an awkward scene in a film or anything like that, we don't want to watch it. It makes us feel awkward, so we'll just turn off, or in case of YouTube, we'll just scroll to the next video. So sort of portraying confidence is something that's really, really important. But how can we do that? Well, there's some things that you can do at home and, ways you can practice, which we'll get to in a little while. But before we get to that, we need to think about how we're going to sort of script, or how we're going to make note of what we're even going to say on camera, because otherwise we run the risk of just waffling. So there's three main ways to do it. There's scripting, there's bullet points, and there's free flow, where we just go for it. And each of those have the merits and they have the cons. So we'll start with scripting. Now, scripting is probably the oldest way of doing it. You literally write a script and then you read it to the camera. There's multiple ways of doing this. You can either try and memorize the entire script, which I'll tell you now is borderline impossible, or use an auto cue. Auto cues are great if you're good at reading them. And reading them is a skill that you're going to develop over time. The problem with this script is you have that much time to sort of read it and review it and change this word, change that word, put a comma there, change that phrase, that by the time you actually get to reading it, it probably doesn't sound like you. It probably doesn't sound like something you'd say. If you read a letter that you've written to someone and then sort of think how you'd say that letter if they were stood in front of you, they'll be two very different things. So that's something that you need to be aware of. The other thing is when you're reading auto cues, being able to break eye contact, being able to pause at the right time, being able to, sort of change your dictation so it flows in peaks and troughs is something that's really difficult, because you're thinking about so many things. You're thinking about reading the lines that are coming up. You're trying to read a couple of lines ahead. You don't want to look away because then you might miss something. So it's a skill that takes quite a long time to develop. So if you're just starting out, honestly, I'd stay away from scripts. Use them as a way to sort of get across what you want to say. You can transition them into the bullet point method. So the bullet point method is as it says. You're just going to go through everything that you want to say and you're going to write bullet points that basically summarize that. And then when you're going down the list, you can talk about a bullet point, you can look down, see what the next one is, back into the camera, 3, 2, 1, into bullet point number 2. And what that allows you to do is just cut out those pauses in between. So it's going to be a fairly smooth flowing bit of content. So bullet points are the things that I always tell clients. Whenever I get an email that says, yeah, we're looking forward to filming with you, can we have a script? I always say no. The people who we're interviewing and the people who are going to be talking to camera, just like yourselves, they all know what they're talking about. They've done this for, probably years. They've had these conversations with clients, with colleagues, with, the friends about what they do and how they do it so many times that they know it really well. So if we start putting scripts in and we start trying to change what they're going to say, they're going to trip them up because it's not what they'd actually say. So by doing bullet points, you get the best out of people. You get the sort of, free-flowing personality coming across, but also it's nice and structured, so you're less likely to have a lot of waffle that you're going to have to cut out. The third one is free flow, and this definitely has its place. Free flow is brilliant if you're conveying something that you're really passionate about, because it's going to come across when you're talking. Now, the downside of free flow is you are likely to waffle on about things, or lose track of where you were, or repeat something you said earlier, because you've not got a definite path through a story, you've not got any record of what you said previously. So whilst for live, it's brilliant, people can sort of sense the passion and sense how eager you are to talk about this subject. But if you're going to start cutting it up and putting it on a social platform, you are likely to lose that sort of passion and that energy that free flow gives you. So I'd use free flow if you're doing sort of a really short minute and a half video where you've just got one thing to talk about, you're passionate about it, you want to get it out there, then use free flow. If not, I'd stick to something around the bullet point question method, because you can still script how you want your story to go. So you can still say, I want a hook here, I want point 1, 2, 3, 4 here, a little bit of a downturn here, and you can use your bullet points to guide people through that. Hooks, key points, payoffs and things like that are something that we'll talk about in a different video, but it is worth bearing in mind when you're writing your bullet points. So how can we get better at communicating and talking to camera and talking to our audience? The honest answer is just practice. You don't have to publish everything that you record. You can go home tonight and just do a 2-minute video to your phone. Leave it a day, come back the next day, watch it back. There'll be things that you really like, there'll be things that you absolutely hate, and there'll be things that you aren't bothered either way about. The things that you really like, lean into. If you watch that back and you think, do you know what, my tone's good, the way I emphasize words is good, then lean into those, they're your strengths. If you don't like your pacing, or you don't like, maybe you're a bit monotone, then that's something you need to work on. And then the bits in the middle that you're not too fussed about either way, just leave those for now, they'll be absolutely fine. Once you've done a few practice videos, do it for real, and put it online and see what reactions you get. 9 times out of 10, what we think will happen is far worse than what will actually happen. And as soon as you put something online, it's going to start becoming a valuable asset to your business. So the sooner you can practice and the sooner you can get to a point where you're comfortable putting things online, go for it. Another key thing that you can do to improve your social strategy for this year is this. So I'd recommend giving that a watch, and I'll see you in the next one.